Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. I hope you're doing well, very well. So, we're going to talk about what went into effect February 1st. Things are going to dramatically change in this country. I am in a blue state, and I was actually listening to news locally, and they were talking about New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut being cut off from federal funds. Now, Donald Trump spoke about this 2 weeks ago, how he was going to cut off sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. And I'm in a blue state, and within my state, there are sanctuary cities. Well, they're being defunded, and it's already in effect. So this is going to impact so many things. It's going to impact SNAP benefits. It's going to impact jobs, hospitals, grocery stores, schools. It's going to impact everything, that depend on federal funding. So one of the first things I expect to be impacted are jobs. There's going to be a lot of people in blue states losing their jobs. And if the blue states are struggling, trust me, the red are, because the blue states actually carry the red states. That's where the money is. The money is in the blue states. And so that means less funding for the red states. It's going to have a domino effect. Now, I don't know if Donald Trump realizes this, but if the blue states are not strong, the red states won't be strong. So, y'all, it is about to go down up in here for real. It is. And my heart goes out to people that lose their jobs behind this because if there's no funding for the federal workers, they're going to get rid of them. They're going to get rid of these people, and the job market is already bad enough. People can hardly find work now, and all you're gonna do is add to the job market, where people can't find work, right? They're saying there's more people than positions that are available here in America now. So, yeah, I can see this turning into a big nightmare. But Donald Trump, all I can say is expect to lose the midterms because the midterms are coming up. It's going to be elections going on throughout this year. So this is going to be bad, but we'll see what happens. We shall see. So, y'all, there's a few things I'm going to show you. All right. I'm going to make an announcement. All right. So, in all three of my shops, Shopify, TikTok, and Etsy, the hair growth butter is on sale from the 2nd to the 8th of February. You get 30% off. So no matter which store you go to, you will get the 30% discount. So it's over the next 6 days. So if you really need hair butter or you just want to stock up on it, this is the time to grab it. Now, I probably will be doing a sale on the weekend leading up to President's Day. I will probably that weekend do a sale on all three stores. All right. So I just wanted to make that quick announcement. And let's see. All right. I want to show you this. I'm going to look at a video from News Nation. Okay. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you. Okay.
And Los Angeles is among the sanctuary cities bracing for their federal funding to be cut off as soon as this morning. The president promising a crackdown on cities across the country that are resisting the administration's immigration enforcement policies. News Nation's Marcus Espinoza is here with the details. Marcus, good morning. What do we know about the president's plan to cut off funding for so many cities across the country?
Hey, Hannah, good morning. So as you know, the president will often announce things and then figure them out as they go. And that is seriously the case here as well. Today is the date that the president has said he would begin halting funding for sanctuary cities, but there are many unanswered questions left. The president has alluded to this several times in recent weeks, including in this Truth Social post announcing that February 1st a deadline and saying that if states want sanctuary cities, quote, they will have to pay for them. He also spoke about it when he was recently in Davos.
I have directed that starting immediately, there will be no more payments to sanctuary cities because they are really just sanctuaries for criminals. They're really protecting criminals, and those are the ones we have to get out of the country.
Now, the White House tells News Nation's Kelly Meyer that the Office of Management and Budget is currently coordinating with federal agencies to implement the president's plan and that officials are, quote, gathering a complete report of funds being spent in each state that has a history of fraud. There are still a lot of unanswered questions, though, including whether this will target specific programs or be a more broad directive. This is also already being fought in the courts, and judges have been reluctant to let the federal government use funding cuts as a hammer. So the president has long been critical of sanctuary cities and is calling on Congress to pass legislation to end them for good.
The question now is who could be affected by these funding cuts?
Right, because it's not just sanctuary cities, but states as well, and also counties, which is something a lot of folks don't know about. So the president has not laid out which locations will be affected specifically, but the Department of Justice is currently listing 18 sanctuary cities on its website. They include New York, LA, Chicago, and Seattle, among others. Trump's post and comments specifically, they reference cities, but do not address whether funding cuts would apply to 13 sanctuary states and 4 sanctuary counties as well. But whatever happens, local governments are preparing for that potential impact. Experts say the cuts could affect departments such as housing, public health, emergency management, and also education. The U.S. Community for Refugees and Immigrants says this decision to cut funding would undermine public safety in America's communities. Hannah.
We will see how this plays out. Marcus Espinoza, thank you so much.
Got it.
Okay, so just to let you know.
1 second, it's a pipe dream. And the next, it's a dream come true. 1 second,
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, this thing is very serious, and they're right. Emergency management, it's anything that's funded by the federal government. And they're already warning people in our area it could cost lives. People could lose their lives behind this defunding. So, all I can say is try to be more self reliant. I know it's difficult, especially if you're struggling with illness or, you're on some type of medical assistant that's federally funded. Yeah. So, because all of that's going to be impacted. And people are already seeing changes. And we're going to talk a little bit about all the changes that went into effect February 1st for SNAP benefits. Oh, it's a lot of people that was on it that are no longer eligible for it. There are a lot of people that had their benefits cut. You might have been getting, let's say, like 2,000 a month in SNAP benefits. Those folks are now down to $200 and $300 a month, and they're having a meltdown. So that is another thing that went into effect February 1st, and we will talk about that a little later. So now we're going to look at some reaction from people over on TikTok about these cuts to blue states and blue sanctuary cities. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you.
The funding to the blue states, but the blue states fund the red states. So the blue states will just stop funding the red states to fund themselves. And then the red states will really be the ones that get their funding cut in the long run.
The President of the United States has just announced that he's cutting off all federal funding to blue states. This would be the collapse of the United States of America if he is not prevented from doing this. This is an illegal seizure of spending power. This is a collapse of federalism, and it is a constitutional coup. Infrastructure in states will come to a screeching halt. So construction workers will lose their jobs in mass. Road projects will end. Transit projects will end. Medicaid care will be shut off. Hospitals will close. Nurses and doctors won't get paid. And nursing care facilities will shutter. School lunches, food assistance, public workers, and state budgets will completely collapse. This will cause the loss of life and irreparable harm to children, to the elderly, to veterans, to working families all across this country. And we will officially be an authoritarian government. Our Constitution will be null and void. This is serious, and we should take it serious. Congress needs to act now. Democrats and Republicans. He is destroying the United States of America as we know it.
Starting February 1st, we're not making any payments to sanctuary cities or states having sanctuary cities because they do everything possible to protect criminals at the expense of American citizens.
Despite highly publicized killings of United States citizens by federal immigration agents in Minneapolis and sharp criticism of their tactics, the Trump administration's immigration enforcement continues in Maryland. Last week, Montgomery County Executive Mark Elridge told residents to prepare for the next operation, a massive increase of federal agents within the county, similar to what we've seen in Minneapolis, Portland, Los Angeles, and Chicago.
We do not consent to the use of any of our parking lots, garages, or vacant lots for immigration enforcement activity. But additionally, we are going to take steps to prohibit it as best as possible.
Council members Will Jawando and Kristen Minks said Montgomery County is already a target of the Trump administration, so they're not backing down.
And our police chief has said this directly. If there's if someone feels like they've been kidnapped and a kidnapping is reported, they're going to investigate that and try to find out what happened.
And I'll just say that in reference to the previous question about them doing their jobs, they're not doing real jobs right now. There's no jobs happening. They're out creating terror, spreading fear, kidnapping people, disappearing people, deporting them sometimes before they are able to even make contact with their families, much less a lawyer. So if that's the job we're stopping them from doing, I'm all in on stopping them from doing that job.
The Department of Homeland Security recently closed a $100 million deal on a Hagerstown warehouse that is widely assumed to hold more ICE detainees. So we'll keep you updated on what's next for Maryland right here and on thebanner.com. This is Rondez Green for The Banner.
Additionally, starting February 1st, we're not making any payments to sanctuary cities or states having sanctuary cities because they do everything possible to protect criminals at the expense of American citizens, and it breeds fraud and crime and all of the other problems that come. So we're not making any payment to anybody that supports sanctuary cities.
Man, guess what them folk wasn't telling y'all when they were making them deals behind them closed doors to keep the budget going, man. Them folks also agreed that while y'all was talking about defund ICE and they wasn't gonna get no funding, them folk made sure that y'all motherfucking sanctuary cities ain't gonna get no funding this year. Them folks said that any state or city that breaks federal law will not be receiving any federal funding. That means that the money that go to public housing, you folks won't be getting it. That means that food stamps, you won't be getting it. That means any federal assistance, you won't be getting that motherfucking money come 2026 starting this year, man. Them folks ain't gonna make you folks let y'all folks take over. What they gonna do is they gonna starve you out. If you can't make no money, you can't start no living, and them folks gonna starve you motherfuckers out.
Off in the streets, which are extremely dangerous and put them at risk for additional things like being mugged, being assaulted, etc. Area number 4, transportation and infrastructure workers. These are also going.
This is a newer iteration of that, but it still raises the questions of, to what extent can the federal government say that what a state or a local town is doing is punishable or should result in funding getting stripped?
See, that's really interesting because that was going to be my next question, is if legally the federal government can block these cities from receiving this money just because they are sanctuary cities. Of course, you just said, there's still questions from that. This is a very new territory that we are charting at this moment. But I'm wondering, though, if we do have an answer as to how sanctuary cities could push back on this and what kind of, preemptive measures they have taken just to make sure that they can still remain a sanctuary city even without that federal funding.
I think we have seen lawsuits related to this already crop up, even starting really on in the second Trump administration. We did see funding get impacted if they deemed a program to be related to DEI, for example, so diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that also had a very broad and non-legal definition. And so we saw states see their funding being impacted by that policy that you wouldn't think was funding that would be impacted. And so, I think it really depends on what dollars are exactly that are going to be lost. And I think, to kind of answer two questions in one is we can definitely expect many lawsuits to come from this, and it'll be in the hands of the court, whether or not money continues flowing while those legal battles play out or whether it doesn't.
All right, is this thing on? Okay, checking. Yep, checking. So this man right here, Donald J. Trump, he is freezing federal funding, where he's planning to cut federal funding. He planned to cut federal funding on February 1st, and it's coming to effect now. But something about federal funding and what they're cutting is federal funding cuts, particularly prominent in 2025 under the Trump administration, involve significant reductions and freezes to grants for science, NIH, NSF, education, housing, Section 8, Medicaid, and criminal justice, leading to disrupted research, halted programs, job losses, and substantial shortfalls in state and local budgets, forcing agencies to cut services, suspend wait lists, and seek alternative funding sources. So not only that the federal funding is being cut to certain areas, but also the government is getting affected too. The Democrats are getting affected because the Democrats run the blue states, and the blue states are like Massachusetts and all that. I live in Massachusetts, so I'm part of the blue states. But the blue states right here, if you go to 2026, I think it's going to show in 2026. This is pretty much the blue states right here. The dark all Republican states. The one that's not dark blue is Republican states. So we might end up going into an apocalypse soon if this lasts more than if this lasts the whole 2026 or so on, So, people are going to be hungry. They're going to start fighting for food. They're going to start fighting for shelter. They're going to start fighting for all sorts of things. And the thing about that is, like, Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to go out there and hurt people, kill people, steal from people, rob, loot. Uh, everybody wants to take care of themselves. Everybody wants to take care of others. Everybody wants to make money and live. But this man, Donald Trump, is cutting federal funding from February 1st. It was yesterday. And right now it's just the start of federal funding cuts. So we'll just have to see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen, but I picture it as there's going to be an apocalypse. Like, people, like what I said earlier, a lot of people is going to be angry and they're going to start rioting and protest and looting, this and that. And I'm not trying to say, oh, I want this to happen, right? I'm just informing you that it's going to happen, and we don't know how it's going to end and how it's going to stop and how it's going to affect others' lives and people who are living in America right now. So that's it for now. If you like these videos, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, or follow me on TikTok, because I'm posting this on TikTok. And you can just heart it and comment down below of what you guys think about the federal funding cuts. So yeah, peace out.
All right, we ready to go? Everybody? All right. Good morning. My name is Brad Miller. I'm the Pinal County Attorney. Today, I'm here to announce a strategic partnership with the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Authorities through their 287G enforcement program. Members of my office have gone through the certification requirements, and we are now acting in direct partnership to protect Pinal County. Evil exists in this world, and it manifests itself through human trafficking, drug trafficking, domestic violence, and crimes against children. This office will do everything in its power to protect this community from these predators. Recently, my office indicted an illegal immigrant named Ishmael Ortega Hernandez for the murder of his girlfriend in front of her 2 children. He sought refuge in a sanctuary city because politicians like Representatives Grijalva and Ansari have made people believe that they are safe in those cities. I'm here to let you know that they are not. There are no sanctuary cities in Arizona. With this partnership, if you commit a crime in Pinal County, we will hunt you down no matter where you go and prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. Human smuggling is an evil, and we will not only prosecute those who participate in such activities, but my office is also planning to pursue legislation to call it what it is. It's modern-day slavery. Working with ICE to end these crimes is the goal. But there are those out there, including those in power, who seek to stop the good work that our law enforcement officers are doing. There are some Arizona politicians willing to lie to you in order to get additional social media attention, as we saw this past week with Representative Grijalva. Now, she was caught in a lie. She had her own Jussie Smollett moment. She had to manufacture outrage where none exists because they know, and she knows, that Arizonans are not on her side. It is unfortunate that these politicians have chosen to create dangerous situations for our law enforcement officers to boost their own profiles and, unfortunately, mainly to raise campaign dollars.
All right, y'all. So, yeah, so this is going to be rough. And yes, it's going to impact states, because I think there's like 4 locations here in New Jersey that are considered sanctuary. So even if you say it's just the cities, it's still going to impact the whole state, because the people in those cities are not going to be funded, which will ultimately just trickle down to the state. But, like I said, when I was listening to the news earlier this morning, they were saying New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut are anticipating their whole states being impacted. So This is going to be interesting to see, y'all. It's going to have a bad impact, and Donald Trump intend on keeping this funding cut from blue state sanctuary cities for the rest of this year. So this is not just an in the moment thing. This is for all of 2026. That's what this is for. So it's definitely going to just create some really bad situations for some people, you know, especially if you're on Medicaid or you depend on food assistance, you're definitely going to be impacted by this. No doubt about it. So we will see what happens. I'll definitely will be doing updates on this. And of course, we know the lawsuits are coming. We already know the lawsuits are going to be coming from these blue states. So y'all, I tell you what, I see somebody, I think Daniel Meyer, you're talking about Karen. I was up last night working on some of the orders, and um, I was looking at a recent ICE video out of Minnesota. I tell you what, they are really laying hands on Karen out in these streets. An ICE agent snatched a cell phone out of an elderly Karen. And when she went to reach for it back, he grabbed her. I mean, he roughed her butt up bad. I mean, he roughed up this elderly woman bad. Anyway, they don't care how they handle these white folks. You know, you got to realize, and I know I've said this before, you got those Proud Boy types, you know, and these Klan members and neo Nazis. Those are the ones that are in ICE. And they see these people protesting for immigration out in the streets, and they see these white people as traitors. So they don't care how bad they rough them up. And y'all, you know, in the month of January, they actually killed ICE. ICE actually killed 9 people. But the only ones they're talking about are the 2 white people, you know, Renee Good and Alex Preddy. You know, everybody else is invisible. I said, see, that right there is enough reason for people not to go out. Let white people handle it. Since you only want to recognize white people that got killed, then y'all take to the streets and do all the y'all should do the work anyway. You set up this system this way. So y'all really should be out there more than anyone else. This is the way you were satisfied with the system running this way until it started impacting you. That is not a reason for my people to be out there, but it's all the reason for your people to be out there. So, you know what, y'all? They can have at it. You know, with these federal cuts to those of us that live in blue states, we got to attend to our own business and get through this year the best that we can. Being out in the streets, that is not a priority. It's not. It's going to be feeding people feeding themselves and getting medical attention when funding may not be there for that medical attention, and jobs that may be lost behind this whole thing. People got their business to attend to. We don't have time to be out in the streets dealing with immigration. That's not our problem anyway. So, y'all, I will see you at 1:45, and we're going to talk about all the changes to the SNAP benefits and why many people are no longer going to be eligible as of today. They're not going to be eligible to even be on SNAP. So I will see you then. Shalom, family.